Well, hello, everybody. So whether you're in the house or watching online, welcome here, especially to our church family at home online. I feel like I'm looking through a lens into your living room or RV or wherever you are. When our kids were little, our two little boys, they were on the show Romper Room. Do any of you remember that show? Remember how Miss Fran, or whatever her name was, would take the magic mirror that had no glass or mirror in it, and she would start naming children that she would see in the distance. So, hello, Mary, and so on. I feel like I'm doing that as I speak to you at home. By the way, if you are at home and you want to go to a really cool time to gather, Saturday night's the place you want to go. It actually is. Especially next Saturday, when right after our Saturday service, we're going to do a comedy show starting at 7 o'clock, and you don't want to miss that, so it's a great night to come and be here for the service and then hang around and join in for that. So it also would help alleviate a little bit of the attendance pressure we're feeling at our 10:45 service. We're full, and that's a wonderful thing, but we're trying to distribute some folks around a little bit. So Saturday night, check it out. All right, so this is the series of collection of talks that we started 3 weeks ago. I think this is the third one. This is us, and it's not actually talking about us. It's talking about Jesus, who invited us to live the life that he gives us, life to the full, in such a way that we collectively, as a group of people, individually and together, would be mistaken for him. That when people would see us living in this world and us gathered in our community, they would think, is that what Jesus is like? To which we want to be able to say, yes, indeed, he is. He is. Look at us, bold enough to do that. So the first couple of weeks, we looked at Jesus' nature and what he taught and how he lived, helping us and people move from just being friendly to really befriending people. Jesus took notice and took interest. And that's what we want to do with people in our communities, neighborhoods, workplace, school, wherever it is that we are. The second week was helping people move from attending to belonging, to not just attending the weekend, but having the kind of friendship with Jesus where it's more attending to him or attending with him, where you get what you want from him, and then there's this cycle of drifting and then coming back and drifting. That's kind of like the attending thing, and he invites us to belong to him. And this weekend, we're looking at how to move from observing to serving. And it's interesting, this would be the weekend that we would do that because we have a team of people right now just outside of Winslow, in Navajo Nation, serving that people group, that community. 20 or so of us left on Thursday, and they're up there re-roofing a barn, I think it is, and they're handing out some water purification systems to people in the community, visiting with people, helping with kids. They're serving. And so I promised them on Thursday when they left that we would come around them this weekend at each one of our gatherings and we would pray for them. So would you join me as we do that? Jesus, right now, you know that there are 20 or so people from our family on the Navajo reservation caring for and loving that community. Might they, Jesus, in what they do, might they be mistaken for you there? May the people there be amazed at how they are loved and how they are cared for and how interested we are in their lives. And Jesus, that would all be for your fame, that they too would understand what it means to be personally loved by the King of the whole universe. So may you become famous through our serving visit there. And we'll be grateful for it. Amen. Okay, so serving. This is hard to do at times. A couple of weeks ago, I was driving up to Prescott, and I'm heading up to Sunset Point. I'm almost up at the top, and the traffic slows down to 35 miles an hour, or whatever it was. And up ahead, I can see there's a car pulled off to the side. The hood is up. The driver is walking around. And, of course, the first thing I can think of is, I got to pull over and help, right? No. I wanted to stay in traffic because I needed to get to Prescott by a certain time, right? And so I didn't even really think that, kind of a glancing thought, like I guess I should, but I just kept driving with the traffic because I got to get there. And as I drive by, like we are sometimes, I'm filled with just a little bit of the guilt. Because I think I should probably have stopped, right? But I can't do that. I probably wouldn't even know what to do, how to help. I'm like not all that mechanical with cars. I can't do that. I've probably called AAA already, and oh, that's great. So I don't have to do that. I really got to get to Prescott. People are going to be waiting for me, so I can't do that. I can't do that. And so, being the compassionate guy I am, I adjust my rearview mirror and I say, I hope somebody helps that person. This is us, right? I can't do that. I'm busy. I got stuff going on. I'm sure someone else will do it. That would cost me time and energy and money, and I can't do that. And sometimes I do it with an attitude as well. Brad, any chance you'd roll the trash and recycling to the curb? It's pickup time tomorrow. I can't do that. I'm not doing that. This is me. This is you. Don't think badly of me for that. So what is it about us that we are like that? We can see a need and not do anything about it. This was not how Jesus lived. He saw, he noticed, and he took time and he took attention, and he did something about it. He served people. I want to take us through tonight a really popular story. It's well known. We've spoken about it a number of times, and you will no doubt have heard it, but I hope it catches you by surprise again a little bit, because it's the place in the New Testament. It's the only place in the New Testament where Jesus turns to his friends one day and he says, guys, now I want to show you the extent of my love for you. If you haven't seen it till now, you are going to see it now. This is the pinnacle of my love for you. It's the extent to which I love you. Do you know what the occasion is? It's probably when he's dying on the cross, right? No greater love has anybody than this, than to lay down his life for his enemy. That's probably it. That's an incredible expression of love. And it really is the ultimate of love, but that's not what Jesus is referring to. Oh, it's probably just before he heals someone of some debilitating disease and chronic pain, right? No, that's not it. It's when he saves someone from a self-destructive lifestyle and he steers them a new way and they have a whole new, wonderful, reborn life, right? No, that's not it. There's a different occasion. But unfortunately, it is such a common story, we forget just what was behind this. So let's look at it together, okay? If you want to follow along, you can turn to John chapter 13. And this is how it starts. It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, here it is, he now showed them the full extent of his love. Set this up a little bit. It's Thursday night, 12, maybe 15 hours before Jesus is going to die on a cross. Goes through a kind of a trumped up trial through the middle of the night and under the covert darkness of what happens in Jerusalem. He has rented this VRBO for his guys, knowing it's going to happen, and all of that faces him. He knows it's there. He knows it's coming, and he wants to spend this time with his guys. And so he gathers them in this upper room. They have a meal together, and this is what it says. The evening meal was being served. So in the middle of dinner, right? In the middle of dinner. And the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus, and he leaves in a little bit to take care of that. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and he showed them the full extent of his love. And he began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around them. So he gets up from this meal, takes off his outer garment, wraps some kind of a cloth around him, and he begins by taking a basin of water and going person to person and washing their feet. Why does he do that? Yes, to show the extent of his love, but there's some reason why he picks that particular thing. Very simply, it was common courtesy in that era and that season to do what Jesus was doing, except it was incredibly out of place for him to be the one doing it. Here's an example. If you come to my home sometime, ring the doorbell, I'm more than likely to answer the door, probably. And when I do, I will greet you warmly with a smile, and I will invite you in. I might shake your hand. I'm more than likely to hug you, welcome you to my home. Unless you're my grandchildren, then I'm going to tickle and kiss you with a sloppy kiss, but that's just my grandchildren, okay? Don't worry. It's okay. Going to come in. I'm going to invite you into probably my family room to have a seat, offer you a beverage. Why do I do that? Well, it's just common courtesy. It's how we do things around here. Because we respect people and we want to welcome them in our home. And that's how we do it, right? And so this was just common courtesy. It is unlikely if you walk into my home after me greeting you that I'm going to offer you a pedicure. Don't expect it. It's not happening. You probably don't want anyone looking at your feet, at least not someone you know, right? I don't want anybody looking at my feet. If you invite me to your home, don't wash my feet. I'm not showing you my feet. I'm the guy at 110 degrees who does not wear flip-flops. You don't want to see my feet. You really don't. You know this guy from a movie that was really popular? Right? Frodo? Remember what his feet look like? I kind of have Frodo feet. Right? You don't want to wash those feet. You don't want to touch them. You don't want to be close to them. You just as soon Frodo kept his socks on, right? Right. There's this thing about feet. It would just be weird, wouldn't it? If someone came into your home and the thing you said is, hey, the way we do it in our home is we wash feet here. Right? Now imagine this. I tried to find something, some metaphor, some picture, something that would capture how strange this was. Because remember, who's washing the feet? Who is it? It's Jesus. Who's Jesus? He's the King of the whole universe. He's the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha. He's the Omega. He's the Savior of the world. He's the Redeemer. He's the one that saves us from the consequences of rebellious living. He's the glorious one. He's the light of the world. He's the Redeemer of everything. He was there at the beginning. He'll be there forever. He helped create everything, and He sustains everything. He's the exact representation of God. He's preeminent over everything. That's who's washing feet. That's odd in itself. Now imagine, just to try to capture this a little bit, imagine that you invited the President of the United States to come to your home, okay? You open the door, you welcome there, and you say, Mr. Biden, President Biden, this is how we do it in our home. We wash feet. This is his look, right? That is not happening. That's weird. Or imagine you invite another really prominent person like LeBron James. This is what he would think of that. Yeah. Actually, that's how he looks after every call, right? That's just standard LeBron James. Or imagine you invite the Queen of England to come into your home. That one made me laugh out loud. You see, it's just odd. It's something about these feet of ours that make it so strange and so odd for us, but not for Jesus. Remember again who He is. He stoops down and He washes these feet. Now you got to think first century feet, okay? These are feet that have not had protective footwear. At best, they had flip-flops or their version of those. But many people, because they were poor, they couldn't even afford that. Not only that, they didn't have safety footwear. So if you're out working in the rock quarry or you're building a home or whatever you're doing, and you drop something on your foot, what happens? You break bones. And many of the feet were disfigured because of injury, farm accidents, and so on. And they didn't have surgical procedures to put them straight. They just kind of healed as they were. And then imagine all day long you're walking around in dirt, but not just dirt, mud, not just mud, but animal droppings. The feet were a prime avenue for bacteria and infections and so on to enter the body. And so many times feet had open sores, and they were bad. They were nasty. Leprosy. Sometimes feet had open sores from that. So this was not like washing sanitized, cool, clean feet. This was a disgusting thing, and no wonder if you ever went into a first century home, the host never washed the feet. If you were a guest, it was proper protocol to offer a basin and a towel, let them wash their own feet. Or if you were really wealthy and you wanted to show off your wealth, you would have one of the household servants wash the feet. Now that's a bad gig right there. If that's your duty, right? It's not a pleasant thing. Why do I tell you all of that? Because Jesus looks at that and looks at the feet of his friends and says, you know something? I can do that. I can wash the feet. I see a need. There's no basin out. There's no water. I can do that. Yeah, but do you want to? I can do that. I can wash their feet. Why? Because Jesus is a servant. Jesus does not serve for service sake. He serves because he's a servant. He's a servant. I wonder in that moment as Jesus is going around the room washing feet, each one kind of pulling back a little bit from that experience because it's so uncomfortable. We know, we read, I'm not going to read that part, but we know that Peter has a real problem with this. Like he just doesn't want it. And I wonder if they didn't, as guys sitting around the table, look back just maybe a few weeks or a month or two earlier, where we're told that they were walking through the countryside and they're having an argument about who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time in their group. And Jesus apparently hears this. He doesn't say anything immediately, but at some point they take a break, and in Mark chapter 9, we read this, that Jesus sits them down. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, here's the deal, guys. If anyone wants to be first, he must be very last and the servant of all. That is actually not what you hear very often in our culture, is it? No, it's not. There's another time, and this must have been embarrassing for the disciples who this involved. A couple of them have their mom come to Jesus, pull him aside and go, hey, Jesus, when this all comes about and it all happens, can you do my boys a solid? Can you give them like the office of Attorney General or, whatever important role there would be? Can you do something for them? Now, if you're a 20-something, you don't want your mom doing that. But this is what happens. To which Jesus says in Mark chapter 10, he says, this is not how we operate. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must what? And whoever wants to be first must be what? Must have great looks. Must have the dollars there. Must have lots of likes or awards or win or be the best at something, right? Well, this is what he says. It's not to be that way with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. Pretty idealistic, isn't it? Jesus, you just said that to inspire the boys. They get all fired up and they'd go serve people. I remember as a little boy growing up in a church, every year the pastor of our church would have his serve or burn sermon. So he'd get us all hyped up and all excited about serving someplace, wherever the greatest needs would be, and usually it was the kids' area. And so he would bring little 6-year-old Johnny onto the stage and sit little Johnny on his lap and go, little Johnny's not going to have a shot in life if you don't serve in the kids' area. Johnny's done. He's not going to amount to anything. So why don't you all sign up for the kids' area? And guess what? He was successful. People would sign up for the kids' area. And then 2 months later, they just stopped showing up for their shift. And they weren't into it at all because the truth is they didn't like kids very much. But they felt guilty because they'd been guilted into service. That's what Jesus is trying to do here, right? He's saying the culture around you tells you have to be best and first and most at everything. But I'm telling you to be best and first, you serve. And of course, they all put their heads down and they go, sign us up. Where do we do this? No, this is what Jesus says. For even the Son of Man, that's me, did not come to be served, but to serve. And you know what that looks like? He came to give his life as a ransom for many. That's a different motivation. See, Jesus did not come to serve. He served because he's a servant. That's his nature. That's who he is. This is how he sees life. And when we get that from him, when we learn that from him, service becomes this great delight because it's flowing out of who we are, because we learn something from the one who is the creator of everything, came into this world and was our servant. Oh, this is amazing what Jesus does and what he inspires us and draws us to. Let's carry on with John's story. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and he returned to his place. And he asked them a question which is probably he knew they didn't know the answer. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord. It's our esteemed titles. It's rightly so. So that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. Like literally wash people's feet? Maybe. Probably not, though, but maybe. Do you ever find yourself saying this when you notice a need or an opportunity? Like I did on my way up to Prescott. I see the opportunity, or I see the need, and I'm not going to do that, or I can't do that, or I hope someone else does that, or the need's there, and I hope it gets met. Imagine this is what Jesus does, but you can't because he's a servant, and this is just what a servant does. Imagine this. What if we trained ourselves every day that whenever we notice a need that we can meet, and rather than write it off as saying, I can't do that, we stop long enough to go, God, is this from you? Is this my opportunity? Are you dispatching me to do something here? And if he prompts you to do it, take the risk and do it. You won't do it perfectly. You might not get it exactly right, but that's not the point. The point is, Jesus, you saw a need around the world. And on that night, you saw a need. You saw dirty feet and proud hearts. And you did something. You stepped in because you're a servant. What if we trained ourselves to do that? What if every day we woke up in the morning and we said, God, this is an opportunity. I know there are needs. I know that. Would you give me eyes to see needs and the courage to serve? Would you give me new opportunity? Would my need sensor go off? I'm just going to take the risk. And I'm going to do whatever that is. Just do it. You know, here's the amazing thing to me is oftentimes when someone serves, someone's life gets changed. But have you noticed how often it's the person who serves has their life changed? That's the amazing thing to me. 10, 11 years ago, something like that, we were in the middle of trying to raise funds to build this particular facility. And I've mentioned it a few times, even the last few weeks. There's this story of Jesus meeting a woman at a well, having a conversation. Her life changes, and in turn, the whole community changes. And our whole idea was to create a campus here that's where those conversations would take place. And we got to thinking, you know, we're going to raise funds, but let's take the first 10% of what we raise and not use it for ourselves. Let's find someplace else in the world where we could give 10% of everything that we raise, that we could create a well-like environment someplace else. And as God would have it, we discovered that there was a community in Kenya on Mount Elgin, kind of the northwest corner of Kenya, who didn't have clean drinking water. And so we decided, what better way to think about the well kind of thing than to actually build a well. And so we sent money over to create a water purification system and a well and provide water for the community so that they would be well served. And then Elfie and I had the joy of going over to dedicate that to Jesus for that community. We went over, of course, to do more than that. We spent a few days doing some training and teaching and caring for the community, the leaders in the community. And toward the end of the week, when it was time to go, we said, we want to do something to, maybe sort of like Jesus says, like the full extent of our love. And somebody in our group had the idea, what if we just gather everybody and we wash their feet? Let's do that. And so the gals lined up to wash the feet of the gals, and us guys were in a line with the men. We'd almost washed everybody's feet, and this old guy is the last one in row in front of me. And he's intentionally the last guy because he doesn't want to have his feet washed. But he wants to be blessed. That makes sense? And so he sits down in the chair in front of me. I'm on my knees with this basin of water and a towel. And he had long, baggy pants. And I asked him if I could wash his feet, and he reluctantly said yes. And he slowly pulled his pants up. And his feet were nasty. They didn't have open sores on them, but everything else. They were dry, cracked, and they were deformed, and it was unsightly. They were dirty. And I was appalled by it. But I wanted to serve. And so I started washing his feet, and in that moment, it dawned on me. This was like an incredibly significant moment. Because we know that there are racial tensions around the world, right? And the people of Africa, Kenya, have been subjugated for so long because of their skin color. And here was a white guy on his knees washing the feet of a black man. A guy from America, which is endlessly wealthy, washing the feet of a man who, I don't know if he is anything. Me, pretty healthy and well, and him hobbling around on these feet. It's just such a contrast, right? And so I started washing his feet, and I looked up at him. And he had his hands over his face, just sobbing, like ugly crying. And then I was. And here's two grown guys, one washing the feet of the other. And suddenly, those feet were tender. They were precious. They mattered so much to me. So I finished washing his feet and dried them off. And now what do? It's just something should happen. And so I prayed a blessing over him. We stood up, and we're both still uncomfortable, embraced him for a long time. And then he left, and we came back here. That shaped my world. What's it mean to just selflessly serve people? Because they matter. And this is what Jesus has done. And he gives us the opportunity. He gives us the opportunity to serve like he did. I want those opportunities. I'm intimidated by them. I steer away from them. I feel I'm too busy at times. But every time I've stopped, the goodness of God in those moments. There are lots of places where we can serve in our community, in our home, wherever. One of the places is here within our own community, to serve one another and to serve the community through it. So I'm going to show you a video of some people who have decided to serve in one way or another. I hope it blesses you.
When we first started coming to Copper Hills Church a couple months ago, we just felt so welcomed with open arms and smiles from everyone on the host team. And so we knew we wanted to get involved right away. And in order for us to do that, we knew since we had that great experience the first couple times, we also wanted to be a part of that hosting team. So being on the inside host, we just want to be able to do our part in making people feel that same experience we had as well, and just feeling welcomed and wanting to come back because we have made it such a good experience for them.
It was so obvious when I was in prayer group at that time. It was made known that there was a need for volunteers and for leaders, and I just had that nudging, just the nudging of the heart that I was saying, I really think God wants me to do this. Before that, I'd been thinking about it, but then when I heard it, I was like, you know what, that nudging, and I just knew it was from the Holy Spirit.
I served with Lisa years ago in children's ministry, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And when she approached me and she asked, I remembered how much value there was in serving with Lisa as a team and a couple, and I haven't looked back. We just loved it.
We joined a life group a couple of years ago. It was a great time for my family to get connected to some of the other young families at Copper Hills, and the next semester they needed a new group leader to continue that set of families being together. So my wife and I just decided to take it over, and it's been great ever since. I think personally it's just given us an opportunity to meet a lot of the younger families at Copper Hills. So, we have families come in, families come out. It's a really busy season of life, so not everybody can stay every semester, and it gives us an opportunity to know lots of people so that when we come here on weekends for services, it really does feel like a family. We see a lot of people that we know, a lot of familiar faces, and we're really involved that way, so it's been good.
I wanted to get involved serving at the church because I had a passion for music, and I loved what I was seeing when I first came to the church. I didn't know what a worship team was or what worship was, but when I came, I experienced something amazing, and I wanted to be a part of it. Personally, it's impacted me in such a great way. I started off just playing one instrument, and then I moved to multiple instruments, multiple areas of serving, and then serving just outside of the worship team, whether that's with the youth group or other various outside of events. It's really expanded my territory and what kind of ground I cover as a volunteer. Spiritually, it's impacted me in a way that I'm really grateful for. I feel like I have a deep connection with the Lord that I didn't have when I was young and when I first started. I feel connected, I feel plugged in with the church in general. I feel that I've made great friendships that will last me a lifetime.
I was actually asked to be a part of a team that started to create ideas. And at the time, I didn't really understand the concept of why this was important. So I was actually asked to join a team that I didn't have a real grasp on why does this matter to the church. But I did come to the conclusion, basically, that our God is a creative God. He has made amazing things just for the sheer sake of being able to point to Him. And He takes incredible detail in His creation, and He takes great joy in His creation. And because of that, why would we not use that same sort of gift and skill within His house, within His church? And so once I was able to fully grasp the why, it made the task joyful. It made it have purpose and meaning in a way that I didn't really understand before. And I didn't want to be a part of something that didn't matter. We can live in a bubble, we can serve our own family, which is so important. However, getting outside of what makes us comfortable, getting outside of ourselves, being a part of a team, in whatever capacity that looks like in serving, God blesses us for doing so. It's an amazing gift that He gives us.
We are Jake and Kelsey Pitts, and we have been serving as inside hosts for 3 months now.
We are Matt and Lisa D'Alessio, and we've been serving in children's ministry for 1 year.
My name is Phil Burvig, and I've been a life group leader for 3 years.
My name is Tyler Richardson, and I've been serving on the worship team for 8 years.
My name is Misty Trevino, and I have been a part of the build team for 5 years.